The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the expressed written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. Wait for you to fall. We'll expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized.
It's Friday, October 5th. Saturday, October 6th. We made it to the weekend. And if you're on the East Coast or across the pond, this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia. The snow is melting, you see, so they're not really snowy right now. Right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network at Deep Talk Radio. We say hello to each and every one of you. If you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Just do old Davey the favor, hit that subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Tonight's show is brought to you by the YouTube channel Ensuho. Sebastian Martin brings high-quality messages to the masses. Go to spacedoutradio.com, click on the Ensuho banner, and subscribe to the channel today. It's the first Friday of the month, which means it's time once again to go all peak woo as our Keith Andrews is back for the ET Connection. Keith is a lifelong experiencer who now helps counsel people who have had experiences with UFOs and extraterrestrials of their own. Experiences they cannot explain or may not want to live through again. So, if disclosure were to ever happen, have you thought about what this world would be like if there were aliens walking around the supermarkets, theme parks, golfing, going to sporting events or concerts, or even running for political office? It's kind of weird to think about, but this is a show where we could get all weird and wacky. That's why we say it's peak woo. Then in the bottom of hour number 3, Everett Thiemer will be back with the latest edition of The Encounter from the SOR Newsroom. It's Faux News Friday on The Encounter, so we're going to have some fun with everyone there. Right now, we say hello and welcome to R. Keith Andrews from Kelowna, British Columbia. Mr. Keith, how are you?
Just great, thanks. How's yourself there, Dave?
Good. It was nice spending some time with you already 2 weeks ago, my friend, at the Four Spoon Paracon down in Cedar-Woolley, Washington State. It was great to see you again. You were absolutely fantastic during your speech. I enjoyed every minute of it. You literally had a packed house in it. So congratulations to you on that, and just a wonderful, wonderful presentation you had.
Well, thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. The whole weekend was a lot of fun. I was, really pleased to reconnect with people. Had a riot with you while we were there. And I'll tell you, I appreciate the accolades as far as my presentation goes, but the information you had yourself during your presentation regarding the whole situation was nothing short of exemplary.
Oh, you're way too kind.
Well, before anybody gets carried away with that idea, this isn't a case of just, I know you, therefore I'll pat you on the back. I've been known to be, shall we say, a little less than...
politically correct?
A little less than politically correct. That's a good way to put it.
Well, you know what? For people who didn't hear, I spoke on media and disclosure and how the media were affected during... and have been affected during the entire UFO process over the last, let's say, calendar 11 months. So it was a lot of fun. I didn't know how it would go because the last few presentations that I did pretty much been on my own experiences. So I was really branching out that weekend for myself to talk about media and the role in disclosure. And then this past weekend at the Caribou Paracon, I spoke about what happens in Canada. So, unfortunately, you couldn't make it up to that. You weren't feeling too good, but you missed a hell of an event last week.
Well, that was the Caribou, the Caribou Paracon there. I was really looking forward to, but it's sad to say. I mean, everybody here knows. Well, most people know my heart doesn't exactly cooperate. And after the second heart attack in the week, I figured trying to run up into the North Country was not a good idea.
Yeah, you weren't sounding very good when I talked to you last week.
That's okay. You wouldn't be talking to me today either if my ear hadn't actually worked itself out. I've been half deaf for the last week.
Well, you know what? We're glad to have you here, man. Glad to have you. Appreciate that.
But no,
really appreciate
the Paracons are proving to be very intriguing, and things are getting a lot more hectic. I don't know. I don't like I said. I don't know how the one for Caribou went, but I hope you got all the numbers written down for the next, so you've got something to compare with the next one. I know.
They're a lot of hard work. And I know for next year we got to sit down. I wanted to take a week off here, and then hopefully next week or the week after, I'm going to sit down with my team and see where we went right, where we went wrong, and make some big-time decisions over the next little bit here to try and do it all again. So, I mean, the people loved it. The people, Grant Cameron, Lorian Fenton, Michael W. Hall, who David Weatherly, Ross Allison, they fell in love with it up here. Absolutely in love with it. And, the positivity we had from the speakers, I mean, they all said they would love to come back here. They would love to speak at this event. And, you have to want to do it. And we definitely, it's a big commitment. It's a very, very big commitment. And if you don't have all cylinders firing, which, for as successful as it was, we didn't have all cylinders firing. And we got to see if we can change that. Otherwise, there's really no point in doing it next year. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah, I know exactly what you're saying. And in all fairness, and this is what's called just, plugging the system. But there is something, and I recommend this to any business that's out there, but we'll specifically target yours. Before you sit down with your team to figure it out, sit down yourself and, quite frankly, just a suggestion, but put a policy book together on how to handle situations, because that will save you a heck of a lot of headaches.
Yeah, I would totally agree with that. Totally agree with that. And, one of the things that, we can go through everything that didn't work. We could go through everything that worked. You just have to have more communication. You have to have the community backing you. You have to have ticket sales done on time. And that's something that we've failed at. And, we got to see if we can resurrect that somehow and bring in a couple more people onto a committee and bring it more forward into the community, letting the community know that this is a good thing. So that's what we need to try and do. Absolutely.
Absolutely. There's so many things that can be done, even with the fun that we had down at the Forest Moon Paracon there. Even there were things that could have run better, but again, it was only the third annual. And from what I've seen from various different people's putting conferences together, quite often you're looking at the first 4 or 5 years before it runs properly.
Yeah, and that's what we hope. And one of the things that we're trying to establish up here with ours, if we end up doing a number 2 and a number 3 and moving forward, is that we really, really want to be able to allow people in this community to express their inner weirdo. Because that's what it comes down to. I mean, you look at Roswell, you look at Shag Harbor, you look at Kecksburg, you look at the Point Pleasant, West Virginia, where Mothman was. All of these communities have embraced their strangeness and their strange experiences and have been able to bring in much needed tourism revenue, because tourism revenue is free money. It really is free money. And,
oh, yeah, very definitely.
And if our community up here can do that, if we can bring it all together, then I think that it is something that will benefit a lot of businesses here.
Well, the first thing,
that's a good thing, and we've got to get the people involved.
Well, you absolutely do, and the first thing that you really have to look at is get rid of the word "if" we can pull it together.
Well, yeah, and like I said, there's some difficult stuff we have to overcome going for next year, and once we get that, if I can get the proper, it all starts with a proper board of directors.
Absolutely,
and that's something that I noticed that I felt we didn't have this year, and it wasn't the people involved or anything. It was a bunch of us running around like chickens with our heads cut off. To use that old cliche.
Well, and I've seen those before, and they make a mess. But I grew up on a small farm.
Yeah, but I mean, that's pretty much it. Like I said, for the first one, it was a lot of fun. Got to see if we're going to do it again. Not sure if we are. I'd like to, but we got to improve on a lot of things. Ticket packages, vendors, community support. The speakers are easy to get. That's the easy part.
Yeah, no doubt. The hard part, in all fairness, is getting from what I've seen of, even when I ran with the psychic fairs, the hardest part that we had was getting the community support, or more to the point, getting the community involvement.
Yeah. I mean, it takes money. It takes sponsorship, it takes local support, it takes a lot of things. So we got to work on it.
Definitely.
Pretty simple. Pretty simple. It's just a matter of, do you want to do it? Do you want the stress? Do you want to add that to your plate when you're already so damn busy? And that's what I need to decide.
Yeah, and that's the big thing there. I mean, and speaking of when you start looking at tourist dollars and tourist attraction, that sort of thing, on the business side of it, this is where all of this gets all tied into the same thing. Because you really got to look at the number of off-worlders that are floating around. We even had When you look at Earth with the number of UFOs that are coming by, and the number of different sightings that are taking place, you can bet they're not all here to work. Because what was it, about 20 years ago now, because I was still working for Dairy Queen, that was when I ran into a Martokian, and he was literally in Dairy Queen. Which kind of threw me for a loop, but hey, what a heck of a way to get the day going.
No kidding. Keith, we always got new people tuning on in. Let's learn a little bit about you. How did you get involved in the extraterrestrial connection?
Well, in a nutshell, I was born into the life, as it were. The day I was born, I ended up meeting the Council of 12. That's a long story itself, but the short version was, I guess, about, 5 years? No, probably about 10 years ago now. I ended up being asked to call into a radio show, and with the head of MUFON Texas, or the section director for MUFON Texas, and next thing I knew, I was doing radio shows and talking on that, and then I guess about 2.5 years ago, and this one you remember better than I do, in all fairness, but about 2.5 years ago, I think, I ended up running into you, in SOR there. And next thing I knew, it's been kind of a blur, but next thing I knew, here we were doing a radio show on a monthly basis. And it's, sometimes we've ended up going in the early part, we got started, we were doing, the 3-hour run, and then people kept wanting it longer. So I remember a few days where we ended up doing a 4-hour run. But busy. We have covered just about it, at least in brief.
Interesting. And it's been a lot of fun, man. It's been a lot of fun having you here because, some of your stories are so off base from what people's reality is, but this is truly a reality to you. How do you defend yourself, Keith, when people say, buddy, maybe you need to go talk to a doctor about certain things?
Well, covering the doctor side, and it's a very valid question, and I know with a lot of the listeners that they're going to look at some of the stories that come out and some of the things I've seen and go, that's just completely nuts. Well, in all fairness, I spent 20 years with one shrink in particular trying to get a handle on the way my head was working. And then I've gone back and seen 2 other shrinks since, all 3 of which have come back to me and said, no, there's nothing mentally wrong with you aside from you don't handle stupidity well. But clinically speaking, they've all given me a clean bill of health. So starting with the medical side of it, clinically, I'm perfectly fine. Okay. Now, as for how I defend myself when people say, well, this can't be real, this is all fantasy. The thing people have to realize is that the world that most people live in, with technology and with all the sports programs and all the, the mechanical stuff and what have you, and all the computers, that's normal for people. Okay, and when you start getting into the metaphysical, into the aliens, into the psychic side of the world, into accelerated healing, that's the part that everybody sees as kind of a fringe element. Or that's sort of the weird stuff. Well, the reality is, for me, that accelerated healing, the UFO interactions, the ancient races I deal with, that's what's called normal. This technology, the way humans interact with each other, for that matter, the way most mortals interact with each other, and do such horrendous things to each other in the name of love or whatever, that's the confusing part for me. And yet, I still see in the human race a phenomenal amount of potential. But this really is an exciting time on this planet. But to me, the metaphysical world or the UFO world is very, that's the reality part. That's what makes sense to me.
How do you understand it and other people don't? Why you? Have you ever asked that question?
Oh yeah, but only about 31 days out of the months that have them. I've always wondered, and I keep asking myself, why it is that I can look at the world and I can look at the UFO side of it, and I don't even question whether it's real. I don't question whether, just for instance, the first time I played with a Ouija board. Okay, most people that play with them, they get a little spooked. The first time I played with one, I watched the planchette bury itself in a concrete wall. And the planchette is the pointer that you use to work with it. I watched the thing bury itself in a concrete wall. To me, that was the curious thing. So I constantly ask, not so much how do I do it, but what is stopping other people from doing it, and from understanding it. And I have come to a couple of answers. One of which, and this is, whatever you do, don't take this as an offense to you, because you're one of the weird people.
I'm a weirdo. I can admit that.
The media is actually responsible. Media being not just the technological media and the radios and the TVs, but word of mouth advertising falls into the same category, where people are taught that UFOs are impossible. We're alone. That's just the way it is. And this sort of thing is being propagated consistently, where even in the UFO community, when somebody comes out and says, "Oh, I think I may have been abducted," I've heard staggering numbers of people say from the community, that have said, "We believe in UFOs," and they'll tell somebody that is just trying to come out and say, "Look, I may have been abducted," and they'll turn around and tell them they're nuts. Okay, that couldn't have happened to you. And I look at this going, how can you possibly do that to people? The UFO community on its own, like I know with you've heard some pretty weird claims from people. And although I'm sure in the back of your head you've got questions, but you don't ever seem to turn around and tell somebody that's not possible, so much as I've never heard of that before. Mm-hmm. Most media, what they do is they propagate the negative side. They propagate anything that takes you outside of the walk in a straight line and do exactly what you're told kind of mentality. They tend to either disregard it or downplay it.
Why?
And that seems to be where where a lot of the problem is.
Why though? Why is that a problem?
Well, it's a proven fact, at least from my understanding, that whatever gets put out on the front page of a newspaper or headlines on a TV station sort of thing is what gets replicated. That's what people focus on. Now, if everybody, if people are coming out and constantly telling you that, and constantly telling the general public that what you saw, where it comes to UFOs, what you saw wasn't real, or they bury it for fear of losing their job, okay, so they won't report it. If everything is built around the fear of being pointed at and told, you're off your nut, if that's the way the media handles it, or the local populace handles it, then the moment you start seeing it, psychologically speaking, what's going to happen, you see something that doesn't make sense, and your immediate reaction is going to be, that couldn't have happened, and you'll either discard it, disregard the whole thing, or you'll spend months looking for a way to explain it that doesn't add up to something beyond this world, or something from before this world. Kind of a way of fitting in, if you will. For me, I didn't get the option of fitting in. Okay, right from the get-go, it didn't work. And of course, in my case, I was only 10 years old when my interactions became public knowledge. And as you know, in a small town, if you become known as a little bit of an oddball in a small town, you're known that way throughout the area before the echo dies.
Oh, true enough. True enough. Trust me, there's enough word going around town about my ghost hunt right now that my facility is full of demons. It's amazing how.
Well, we can safely say that your facility isn't likely full of demons. A couple of hotheads, maybe, but not demons. But I think that has to do with my understanding of what demons are as compared to the general consensus. Well, obviously this varies person to person, but the first thing that you look at, one of the most obvious, is double check on what is known as missing time. Okay, if you're losing time, of course, the first thing you have to do when you look at anything is look at the logical things first. Look at the things that could possibly explain it. Like, for instance, where it comes to missing time, did you just lose track of time? Did you maybe, just kind of, well, let's face it, the morning after the night before is quite often, for a lot of people, a cause for losing time. But you look at the issue, find out, were there witnesses that corroborate what little you remember. And the thing is, once you figure out that, okay, I can't account for this amount of time, that in and of itself does not mean that you've been abducted. But it is one marker. Okay, that you may have been. And, when you start looking at the scoop marks that people end up with, those funny little things that look like somebody's taken a tiny melon baller and removed a small chunk that you never noticed before. Or, you've ended up when you've never suffered from bleeding nose, right? And you wake up in the morning and you find out you've had one. These are all independent, don't mean much. Okay, they could be any number of things. But when all of these markers start lining up, you're looking at possibilities. Okay, now, proving you've been abducted is a massive problem. Because you can go to a regressionist, to a hypnotherapist. And most of the time, most hypnotherapists are really good at it. But there are some that will do it backwards. And of course, that's where people start looking at it going, well, I don't trust hypnotherapy because people can implant your brain with a different thought line. And that can happen. This is why you have to do your research. find a hypnotherapist that knows what they're doing and that has a reputation. And I do mean a good reputation.
And that's pretty hard because there's a lot of people who believe that hypnotherapy, Keith, is just a way for someone to implant thoughts into a relaxed, vulnerable mind.
Absolutely. And I don't know if you know any hypnotherapists that are qualified. I was lucky with the shrink that I spent 20 years with, right? They were a trained hypnotherapist, right? And one of the biggest things that you look at when you're dealing with that, because you're right, hypnotherapy is a fabulous way to implant all sorts of things. So what you want to do when you're looking for one is, number one, make certain that the hypnotherapist leaves you with total memory of everything that goes on. Okay, that's the first and foremost. The second one is find out how they prod for information before you sit down with them to actually go into a session. For instance, if you're going to describe somebody and the hypnotherapist wants a little more description on the hair, right, on what's covering the head, the hypnotherapist has to do something along the lines of, was there anything, can you tell me anything about the individual's head? Right. And if the person says, well, I think they had hair, they may have had long hair, then the hypnotherapist has to do something like, well, do you know what color it was? What color the hair was, or what texture it was. The hypnotherapist cannot go, well, did he have black hair or did he have gray hair? Right. It's got to be ambiguous, non-leading questions. And anybody that's worked with hypnotherapy, or for that matter, law, on any front, knows about the idea of leading questions.
Mm. So with people who are abducted, how do they know? What is something that they should look for if they feel they have had an experience? Is it starting with their own body, starting with their own memory, looking around their house to see if things are different? Because when you have a weird, strange experience, I know when I immediately look around my house, looking to see if anything has changed or is out of the ordinary.
Yeah, and all three of the points that you just mentioned are very, they're depending on the person. Check around the house, see if anything's out of place. The first place, obviously, if you're waking up and you think something happened, oddly enough, check your clothing. In other words, if you went to bed wearing pajamas, make sure they're still on in the same fashion. If they're not, odds are something happened. Okay. Take a look around the house, make sure nothing's gone missing, make sure that everything's still where it belongs, doors locked, that sort of thing. Check your clock. Okay. And, of course, if you feel something off with your body, absolutely take a look. And if you've got a partner and you can't see a part of your body, get them to look at it. Because anything abnormal, and it's not a case of automatically go, oh, it definitely happened, but document it right then. Even if all you're remembering is a sense of running or a sense of being tied down, write it down, write the time and date down, because the other bits and pieces may come back over time. Okay. And then, of course, if you're dating all of it, the personal documentation at the time you're remembering it is the critical issue.
No, I totally understand that. But people aren't thinking about writing it down. They are so confused about what has gone on, Keith.
Oh, I agree with you 100%
here they are.
there.
They're more interested in sitting on their couch with a cup of coffee, scratching their head saying, was I drinking last night? Was I drugged? What the hell was this that I was dreaming about? And it starts a chain reaction. The last thing that most people do is pick up a pen and paper and write it down.
Oh, I realize that's usually the last thing. That's why I brought it up. Because I know when it started to happen to me, I wouldn't write down anything. I would sit on my bed. Of course, I was a child. So I would sit on my bed and I would rock back and forth. You know, not exactly banging my head on the wall, but the next best thing. Just a complete wreck. And of course, the drawback on top of that was I wouldn't tell anybody what I was going through. Right. I wouldn't even confide in my parents or my brothers who shared the same room with me what was wrong. You know, so when it's happening, no, people on the whole do not think about writing it down. This is why, especially if you've got kids that are going through potential complications, taking that moment, absolutely comfort the kid first. Absolutely. Okay, but once you've got the kid calmed down, turn around and document what you can. Because, I mean, let's face it, Dave, you know what it's like to have a kid wake up with a panic. The last thing you want to be doing is taking notes before you deal with the panic.
Oh, that is very true. That is completely true. I mean, but most people do not understand, though, Keith. They have no clue. They have no conception. Their idea of this is it's just a nightmare, not a real action, unless it starts happening frequently or things change where they start having some sort of intuition or something along those lines.
Very true. And again, this is why, you know, and I always encourage people, and I know it goes against the norm, but I always encourage people, even with nightmares or dreams, write them down. Because that ability to look back on the documentation after things have settled down is so much more revealing than trying to remember it later. You know, the old case of deja vu. If you've written it down periodically, you can understand it.
This is very true. This is very true. But for those who have never experienced anything, Keith, I mean, I guess this is what I'm getting at. I hear you generalizing on everything, but I want to focus right now on the people who have no clue. They don't believe in this stuff, or maybe they've seen the Hollywood movies and that's as far as they get. They think it's just a complete nightmare, and this happens out of the blue. There's no history of it in their family. They don't know anybody who has had ET contact. All right, they live a good, wholesome life, like most of our listeners who've never had any contact before. And sure, there may be a mild interest in everything. They may be a little bit curious because maybe they've seen a UFO or watched UFO documentaries on this. So there is an interest which would put that thought in their head if by chance they had a nightmare. And yet, these are the people who are not reporting things because they don't know what the heck happened.
Yeah, and it's people like that. Okay, it's those people that it may be literally years before it comes to the surface, before they really deal with it. They may sit there, you know, the experiencer in that case may sit there with it hidden for a decade before something twigs that they went through it. Okay, and the only thing I can tell you at that point is that's when the search begins to find somebody and find a show like SOR to track down experiencers or track down somebody that has some knowledge, you know. And all kidding aside with what some people think of MUFON is well known to be an access point. Regardless of what people think of it, it's a well-publicized one. Now, SOR is getting very well known in that field, where I'm pretty certain if somebody phones you up and says, hey, I think I've had a problem, or I think I've had an experience, I'm pretty certain that you know enough people that you can put them in touch with somebody if you can't help them yourself. You know, but it's that sort of thing that the uninitiated experiencer is going to end up dealing with. Because once it starts impacting, and it, like I said, it could be a decade later, all of a sudden they have to deal with it. Okay, and the nightmares have been going on for years, and they just didn't put it together. Right. Well, I luck out on that one because the first thing that goes through is you get this really odd look on their face more often than not that where the dawning suddenly crosses their face, and it's like, and then it varies. More often than not, it's a shocked realization. Every now and again, you run into one that goes almost into panic. Now, I'm one of the lucky ones when I deal with somebody like that because I've seen enough different races to be able to help them identify what they're dealing with and why. But you have to, once the realization hits, it's kind of like, well, you've seen people, like, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, but you've seen people right after a serious vehicle accident, one that doesn't put them in the hospital. But you've seen, okay, and you know how they're wired and you have to talk them down first before you can get anywhere?
Yes.
It's the same kind of a process. Okay, the difference being, for me, it's easy because I've run into it so often myself. But the challenge is getting them to feel that they're not the only one that's gone through it. That's where it becomes a problem, because the first thing they're going to think about, or one of, is that all of a sudden their world has been turned completely upside down and the whole concept of normalcy has gone out the window. Okay, that's where...
Explain that. Go into detail with that.
Okay. If you're used to living a normal life where, as you put it, yes, there's an interest, but nothing bizarre has happened. The moment that you realize that there's a high probability or possibly a realization that you just flat out were abducted, your entire concept of what reality is collapses, because you're no longer dealing with just the mundane 9-to-5 job or 2-to-6 job or whatever it is. You're not dealing with a standard job and a standard interaction with people. You're taken into a realm where the bizarre side of your life becomes the dominant one. You start looking at everything, every light in the sky, all of a sudden becomes a potential threat. Okay, and bear in mind, I'm talking at the beginning. This tapers down, but at the beginning, there's this issue of worrying about whether you're going to be abducted again, worrying about, are the lights in the sky just stars or just a satellite, or is something else out there coming after you? And of course, even in many cases, especially if you live off the beaten path, if you live in the suburbs or in the country, every extra sound that used to be normal all of a sudden has a potential problem. And this is why when you start to realize it, it's imperative to find somebody that at least will listen with an open mind. Somebody.
Well, we are listening. We are listening. That's why we get into this program, because we have open minds, man.
Oh, I realize that. This is one of the nice parts for the listeners, is I know full well, and I've mentioned this to you before, it's a virtual guarantee. If somebody phones you up and says, look, I think I saw something, you're going to take it seriously first. Then you'll look into the facts of what you can find out, and guaranteed, at least as close to it as I get, you'll turn around, and if you find out it was nothing but an airplane that you didn't know about, that nobody was aware of, but that's all that light was, you'll let the person know. Okay. Same as with me. I always look at the logical side of it first and help them deal with it from that end.
Where is logic in this, though, Keith? Because everything that people explain is happening to them is so illogical.
Well, logic is an interesting thing. And I heard it put one day beautifully, and, we're dealing with UFOs, so let's go to Star Trek. And it was once said, quite literally by Spock, that when you remove all logical possibilities, whatever's left, however illogical it may appear, is the answer. Okay, and that's where logic comes in. Because you eliminate everything you can explain, and keep in mind, just because you can't explain it doesn't mean it's not real. And yes, you are right. What about the people that go, well, I'm sure it was just my imagination, or worse, the ones that make it up to start with? Okay, those people do exist, but the reality is the majority of people that have these problems aren't making it up. They may misunderstand it, they may not be able to quantify it properly, but it's certainly not their imagination that's causing it. Because let's face it, imagination does not leave blood tracks.
True. Very, very true. So when people have that experience and it's a nightmare to them, how do they know or tell whether it's benevolent or malevolent?
That's where it becomes, this is where finding somebody to talk to comes in handy, because on their own, number one, if it's traumatic, the first place that the human mind will go, and in all fairness, any mind will go, is into the self-defense mechanism. They will automatically go, this is a traumatic thing, this is a frightening thing, this is a malevolent, interaction. And it's not until you get to discuss it or to really examine it that you get to figure out whether or not it was. Okay, for instance, I know of a couple of cases where somebody was physically hurt by an off-worlder, but it was done by accident. One in particular, I watched the individual, and all the off-worlder did was reach out to touch their shoulder, just to let them know they were there. And because of the strength of the off-worlder, it dislocated the individual's shoulder. Now, if you don't know what's going on, that's going to feel like a malevolent action. Right. The reality behind it was absolutely a benevolent one. They were simply trying to say, hey, I am right here. Only their strength level was so far off the individual that it ended up causing damage. Okay. You've heard tale of human gentle giants, people that are so strong and yet their wisdom level is a little bit below, where they can hurt people just because they're trying to shake their hand.
Tell me more.
Well, think of it this way. Okay, the individual in particular that dislocated the other one's shoulder come from a planet that is high gravity, meaning their musculature is way higher and way more dense than what it is on Earth. So, of course, when you're trying to adjust your interaction on Earth, you have to remember that when you go to pick up something, like if you go to pick up a tomato and you're used to paying, you're on Earth, you go to pick it up, you pick it up normally. If you're used to that tomato weighing 3 or 4 times as much, you're going to grab it with a lot more strength. You're going to put a solid grip on it. And that will crush it. I mean, you take a look at it. Okay. An easy one for people to try. just to get an idea of how that works. Take an egg, a raw egg, and put it in a glass of vinegar and leave it sit there until the shell completely dissolves. Now, doing that, the membrane inside the shell won't break. Okay, like it won't dissolve. But when you go to pick it up, it's extremely fragile. Now, look at the difference between picking up an egg with a shell and an egg without one, and that's the difference between high gravity and low gravity strength levels. That's how quick it can break. So
do the aliens then know, Keith, the strength of the human body or how much it can withstand?
Some of them. I can tell you that the Greys know what the human body can go through. Srazazians, which are your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians, they actually train their individuals. Like, they train the people that are coming down to deal with humans with extensive training on muscle control, on their muscle control, to ensure that they can work with humans without accidentally breaking them. Okay. Nords, well, the Nords are basically built the same way as humans anyway. Okay. When you take a look at your vegans, which are an insectoid race that frankly doesn't have a pain center, they have no way of understanding human fragility. Okay, and yet they still try and understand it by, by abductions, by experimenting as in taking blood samples and what have you. When you take a look at the Wara, which they're a simian race, they know a fair chunk about about human anatomy and about how well it holds together. They are stronger, but not so strong as to be dangerous, if you will. But then one of the things that they're doing with the abductions is figuring out how people, how to interact with humans in such a way as they don't kill them. Okay, I mean, you look at the sea fairies, which are an ancient race. They live under the ocean. When they first started taking people, they had no clue about the human race. So, of course, they'd go to take them down to their cities, and they'd turn around and, you take a human underwater, take them down without an oxygen supply. Let's face it, that's not going to work well. When they figured out the oxygen issue, they figured, okay, well, we'll solve the oxygen. They arranged an oxygen tank for them. And then they found out that the pressure was killing them. But it really is, with the off-worlders and with many of the ancient races, it starts off on a trial and error basis. But in today's world, most of the off-worlders have training before they're put on a collection crew. Same as if you're sending a human out to tag tigers or even to tag fish. You train them on how to do it before you send them down.
We only got about 2 minutes left before we got to go to our first break of the night. And once again, we'll take your questions in the chat rooms or on Twitter at the break or after the break. Keith, in regards to those who are just learning about this subject, because maybe they've seen a UFO or maybe they've experienced something, or maybe it's just mild curiosity, what advice do you give them in their learning process? Because a lot of people, when they go into something nowadays, they go all in, they go hardcore.
Right. So the first thing that I would strongly recommend is do not take only one person's outlook. Be careful on when you're doing it. Look for 2 or probably 3 different people that you feel right to you, and do your research. Okay, talk to the people that have a reputation in the field or, that have some sort of contact, and look at look for common denominators. Okay. For instance, and again, logic does come into it. One of the biggest things when you're looking at the star, at the stars, you're looking for a UFO. Keep in mind that UFOs don't always show up the way you think. Watch for patterns in the stars where you watch patterns, where you watch stars disappear and then a moment later reappear in sequence. What you're likely looking at is an invisible ship going by going in front of you. Okay, and we can discuss that again later. But it does take a lot of analysis. It takes a lot of cross comparison. In other words, look at many different people's opinions, many different reports, and really get to understand it, because logic works for understanding the UFO technology. Just remember, lack of proof. If you can't prove something exists, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Very true. And on that note, Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on. We are going to go out for our first break of the night. Our Keith Andrews, the ET Connection, happens the first Friday of every month. Keith's next appearance will be Friday, November 2nd. That'll be just around the corner. Wow, that quick. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. I am your host, Dave Scott. We'll be back after this break.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4Cop. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's The Encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out, and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. This weekend, Tessa Nicole Thomas is in the hot seat while I'm out finding my Zen, my Chi, and some firewood. Tessa hosting Spaced Out Weekend starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Also, all of our archives are free at youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fascio-auriculovertebral. What the hell is this, Bill? Fascio-auriculovertebral. I don't know if I got it right, but Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. What the hell is fascio-auriculovertebral? I don't even think that's a word. I really don't think.
A few of them, and what I find fascinating with Bill is he comes up with some of the most bizarre words that are actually real.
Fascio-auricular. Hold on, let me try this again. Fascio-auriculovertebral. Fascio-auriculovertebral. I don't know. Maybe that's right. I don't know. Anyways, our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Our Keith Andrews is here for the ET Connection. It happens the first Friday of every month, where we talk all things alien. Mr. Keith, welcome back.
And thanks so much for having me.
Oh, no problem.
And welcome back to all the listeners.
No problem. Not a problem. Always good to have you here. Keith, I got to ask you a real peak woo type question here. We're going to go deep, deep, deep into the woo here.
Well,
eventually disclosure is going to come. Eventually. I don't think it'll happen in our lifetime, but probably within the next 100 years or so. Maybe less. Maybe 50 to 100 years. All right, where I think my son's generation, I mean, he's only 5. Maybe my daughter's generations, they're still teenagers. All right, maybe in their lifetime. And I often wonder, what's it going to be like when ETs are walking around this planet?
Well, that's where it gets very intriguing, because when that happens, eventually it'll be just like going to the mall. Today, if we look at Kelowna, which is where I am, 30 years ago, if you had 3 black people in the city, you were doing well, and you'd see 1 or 2 Oriental. Now they're as common, they're just
multiculturalism does come into play here, because Canada is very open to that.
Oh yeah, and you will find when they first start showing up, people will look at them a little off. Ultimately, what will happen is you will end up with a multicultural, interplanetary, like interstellar society. But we are talking down the road. When it first starts happening, you are going to unfortunately see all ends of the spectrum. Everything from the rare individual that will just accept them outright, to the ones that just automatically will see somebody that looks different and assume that they're an evil individual, that they're taking away jobs, this sort of thing. When you really look at it, off-worlders are just another individual. They react the same way that humans do, based on the culture they're brought up in. So there will be new technologies developed for defensive purposes, and I do mean this on a strictly mundane level. For instance, there are races that will short out electronics. So you have to develop electronic buffers to stop them from doing that. But on the whole, if we stick to the ones that just may look different than humans and react a little differently, but are essentially the same way, what you'll have is a wide array of, in the starting period of it, where there's going to be a lot of social division if they don't handle if the governments, if you will, do not handle the introduction of the new races properly.
Okay, so do you think that this is going to be a government-issued program, or do you think that they're just going to make themselves at home?
Quite frankly, it's sort of a combination. What I suspect very strongly is going to happen is they're going to show up, and then the government is going to have to work out ways of integrating them. Okay, of getting the social stigma under control. It's not like you're going to see a starship at the beginning show up in the heart of New York or in the heart of any city, large or small. they'll start off by coming in small groups, trying to get a handle on society itself. It's certainly, they're not going to go through government, immigration programs, as it were, to get involved. Okay. What's going to happen is the off-worlders are going to show up, and even some of the ancient races are going to surface. And yes, what am I? Joe here, he's asking in Spreaker, do aliens drink alcohol and will they hang out in bars? And the answer is yes, some of them. Okay. They are they're very much like humans as far as social interaction goes. Different cultures and what have you. But you'll find that people turn around and that the off-worlders will work their way into society, usually in bits and pieces to start with. Okay, or dribbles and drabs, if you will, where you'll get a pioneer that says, I'm going to live on the outskirts. And they're going to try and live amongst people and they will undoubtedly start with the smaller communities where it comes to trying to integrate, because yes, smaller communities are a little more cliquey, but they're also they're edgy, but they don't tend to get panicky right away. But as it becomes more prevalent, the local governments will have to step up to the plate and make certain that people are treating them the same as people treat each other. And hopefully by then it'll be better than what they're doing now.
Well, I can understand that. And there's a lot of fear that goes along with that. I mean, we see it every night in our chat room when we talk aliens.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, people are scared of this topic. I think that's a combination of, exploiting the scary stories, Hollywood, video games, even the government themselves.
Well, very definitely. That's the reality behind it. When you look at it, people are trained to be afraid of the unknown. Okay, now you just get curious about it. And don't get me wrong, obviously you've got your edgy side as far as that goes. My problem is I don't have any fear of the unknown. Humanity, that's another issue.
I see that. Okay, and I know where you're going with that, and I very much appreciate that. All right. I think though that it's a stepping stone process. We
Absolutely.
finally I don't think we have disclosure. I think we have confirmation. And as the older generations start to die off, which is unfortunate, but we do have to talk about that, and the younger generations become more open-minded and maybe pull away a little bit each generation from the religious aspect of life. We're not bashing religion here. But I think that's where it starts, is that generation that is looking for their spiritual context in their own worlds. They become more open-minded. Therefore, it's going to be easier to transition, say, kids that are unborn or under the age of 20 years old now, comparatively to somebody who's, say, 70 years old, 60 years old, and doesn't want to believe this because of their own personal beliefs or religious beliefs, and it scares them.
Absolutely. I absolutely agree with you there. And that brings up this question that Beyond the Omniverse has put in. I think this would be a beautiful point to clear up some of this. Because in Spreaker, in the chat room, Beyond the Omniverse has asked who are, and he's listed off a bunch of different races. So I'm just going to give you, if it's okay with you, Dave, I'm just
go
going
right
to give
ahead. You run with it. You run with it.
Okay. We have the Pleiadians. Now, Pleiadians are a humanoid race. Humanoid as in they look like humans, sort of. They are bald. They are translucent blue, as in you can see through them. But you will never see they are healers. and that is what they do. But you will never see a purebred Pleiadian on Earth because the atmosphere will kill them. Then we have the Andromedans, who look very similar to humans, could, in all fairness, pass for them. By the way, the Pleiadians, being healers, they don't care who they heal. They are just there to heal. Andromedans are rather militaristic. They do look like humans. They are, on the whole, benevolent individuals. Same as the Arcturians. They look very similar to what humans do. This is another race that can pass for humans, although their cultural interaction can really point them out quickly. Now, reptilians, we have to understand something here. Reptilians is an overall group. You have Thrizosians, which are 7.5 to 8.5 foot tall armored reptilians. They are allies of mankind. You have the Tekleks, which are in the 4.5 to 5.5 foot raptor-looking reptilians. They're in the middle of a civil war, but they're a very, shall we say, volatile race. Some of them are allies, some of them are against mankind. The Mantids are an insect. Okay, they're not malevolent, but they are self-serving. The Greys, of course, are the most prolific that people know of. There's about 15 different colors of them in two different castes. The short ones are your scientists. They are the ones that develop the hybridization program. They are also the ones that do all the research. They handle 90% of the abductions, that sort of thing. Most of them are just scientists. You have a few, percentage-wise, that are allies or are really benevolent, and you've got a few that are strictly in it for the money, as it were. Okay, so, I mean, these are just some of the individuals you see. When you take a look at Martokians, well, frankly, they're from Mars. And yes, they are green, but by no means are they short. They're about human-sized, but they've also got reversed knees. They're here more often than not, quite frankly, tourists. Okay, there's a lot of different races, but these are just the ones that Beyond the Omniverse asked about. And considering I've dealt with over 50 myself, 50 different ones, that list gets really long really fast. I just figured I'd give people the quick rundown on that one.
Mm-hmm. There is another question here. This one comes from Trip. He's saying, disclosure has happened all throughout time. What types of disclosure or what type of disclosure are you wanting, expecting, hoping for anyways, Captain Dave? Well, I'm going to answer it this way. I think everybody just wants to know. All right? They want to know the secrets. People have their own individual disclosure. For me, aliens are real. Disclosure has happened for me. It has happened for Keith. But there are still a plethora of questions out there as to the 5 Ws and how that we need to know. Now, we're waiting for the aliens to come and tell us themselves what the heck they're doing. I mean, look, we've been waiting for Carl to come back, and we'd love to interview Carl here, wouldn't we? Wouldn't that be fun? But,
I think that would be absolutely fantastic. Although, as we've discovered, understanding what he's saying may be a bit of an issue.
Yeah, it could be a complete issue.
Yeah, for those that don't know, Carl's a Grey.
Yes.
And he talks by clicking.
But for the majority of public out there, they do not understand this topic. They do not believe that this has happened. They do not believe that some of this exists. And they look to the government.
It's funny because I've watched people, I've done my own listening, as it were, and I heard it put one day that about 65% of Americans believe that UFOs are real. And yet they're still asking for disclosure. Now, but something I have found, Dave, and I'm sure you'll agree with this one. It's one thing to believe something is real. It's another to have it standing on the door in front of you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And for the majority of people, they're not ready.
Oh,
it's
heavens
easy
no.
to say that, but they're not.
And that applies to even some of the, you look at some of the big bruisers that I'm sure you've met, right? That go, oh, I can handle anything. And some of these people take one look at a neat little gray or at a fairy, and I'm talking about the 4-inch little type, and people just panic. It's like they don't know what to do with them.
Exactly. Here's a question for you. This one comes from BTO again. What about the Niburians from Nibiru?
And they are real. The Niburians are actually I'm going to call them benevolent in as much as they don't mean any harm. They're not trying to enslave anybody. Right. But they're not actively doing anything to mankind. They watch what's going on. They've left the planet alone for a lot of reasons. Okay, but they do watch how mankind is evolving. And this boils down to, it's kind of like running a trap line. The reason they're back is because they're running a cycle and taking a look. Just like human trappers go down the trap line once a month or whatever it is. I'm not a trapper, so you may know more about that than I do. But they're coming back to see what the evolution is looking like.
I see that. The ETs that are here, are they from the future, the past, or the present?
All of them are from the present. There's a few that are here from the past, but understand there isn't a single one here from the future. Okay, because you cannot travel backwards in time. It is possible to travel forwards in time, but then you're trapped in the forward time because you can't get back. You can look back, but you can't communicate with the past. Okay, you can look back to see what happened. You can record whatever you please or make notes, but you cannot physically interact with the past. So therefore they're all from present, with a few that are technically from the past, but they're in the present now and they're stuck here.
Okay, so how do they, I'm a little confused on this, Keith. So they're not from the future.
Correct.
They could be from the past.
Yes.
So how did they get here to the future?
Well, it is possible to move forward through time. Okay, and the way that works, without going into the technical side of it, when you jump forward in time, there will cease to be any record of your activity. At the time that you step into the future, all record of your activity will stop being recorded. It won't eliminate anything that's already happened, but let's say you were at your favorite restaurant there, Dave, and for whatever reason, you stepped into the future. You would show up in the future where you are. Okay, in the same location, but X number of years down the road. There will be no record of anything you've done. Let's say you jump 20 years into the future. There will be no record of anything you've done for the last 20 years. You will not age. You simply show up 20 years down the road. At that point, you're still Dave. You're still the same person with all the same memories. The only difference is, for you, yesterday was yesterday and today is now. For everybody else, yesterday was 20 years ago. And all of your friends will have aged 20 years.
Right.
Okay. But you yourself, all of your, if they didn't cancel your bank accounts and what have you, I'd be amazed. But, you know, everything that was yours, assuming it hasn't been disposed of, it's still yours. Your fingerprints are the same. You're still the same person. But you're now trapped 20 years in the future.
How does that affect aliens, though, when they're not really affected by time?
Actually, they are. See, you got to remember, aliens are still affected by three-dimensional physics. So if the aliens move forward in time, they're affected the exact same way. There's no effect on them. They just simply move 20 years ahead. Okay, aliens don't come back in time because nobody comes back in time.
I get that.
Okay, so it doesn't have any more time travel moving forward, has no more bearing on an alien than it does on a human.
Okay.
Okay. The biggest difference is usually aliens that deal with it are already expecting to be moving forward. Humans usually end up hitting a pocket and all of a sudden get dumped into the future. And rest assured, that gets really confusing for them.
It's confusing for me, man. I'm sitting here thinking, trying to understand this.
Okay, think of it this way. I presume you understand the concept that you just cannot go backwards in time. Okay.
Yes, I do get that.
Okay. For those that are listening and going, but I've heard you can, understand to go back in time, you have to literally disassemble reality. That's why it doesn't work. So let's go with, you don't go back in time. When you're going forward in time, okay, all you're doing, the easiest way to depict it for yourself, take a sheet of paper, okay, put a dot on one end and a dot on the other end. Okay, and then you put a timeline between the two. When you're jumping forward in time, fold that paper in half so the dots line up. And that's the point. That is what's happening with you. All you're doing is stepping one step
right
into the future, and all of that other time passes by without you.
What's the difference between doing that and, say, jumping through a wormhole or dimension?
Well, number one, we are not, anything existing in this world, in this reality, period, is third dimensional. Okay, things vibrate at a different rate, but in answer to the issue of stepping through a wormhole, well, aside from the stresses that going through a wormhole can cause, there's no functional difference. Now, well, there is. Wormholes only go one direction. Okay. Some. This gets into that really funky physics. Some wormholes are two-way. You can go either direction, and all they are is a hyper-accelerated conduit by which space travel is possible. Now, it happens to be that the wormholes on the whole are big enough that you could actually get two ships passing at the same time and never see each other inside a wormhole. Some wormholes are a little on the smaller side, but they won't open on one end if there's somebody already inside it. Okay, but the fundamental issue about traveling from one location to another, basically wormholes are a shortcut. Okay, and unlike the shortcuts that you're told about when you're driving, these ones actually take less time. You know the type of shortcut where somebody says, grab this shortcut,
Yes.
It's a real quick run?
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, and I can appreciate that. Okay, I can appreciate that. But dimensionally speaking, I understand that there's third dimension. But if we're dealing with extraterrestrials that are on a different dimension, different plane, how do they react to a third dimension?
Well, number one, if they're a fourth dimensional being, they don't come to the third dimension because it'll kill them. You can't take a third dimensional object and put it in fourth dimension and have it survive. It'll come apart. Because the entire physiognomy of said entity is built on a different system. Now, in third dimension, in this world, things do vibrate at a higher speed and therefore appear to be invisible. Okay, or if they're vibrating fast enough, you can pass right through them. Even ghosts are third dimensional entities. They just happen to be vibrating at a much higher level where you can pass through them without actually hurting either one of you. Although it does feel kind of funky on occasion with the electromagnetics.
Okay. I'm going to accept that. Let's get to Gail's question. Gail is asking, I know many rockers with walkers and none is afraid of aliens. If fear is eliminated, how would you guys account for the widespread dislike of extraterrestrials?
Would you believe me if I said Hollywood and the media?
I was going to go there too. We agree on something, man. We agree.
Oh my gosh, it's a red letter day.
Tell me about it.
But that's why. Is because social programming says aliens are evil. Heck, if we go back 100 years, people thought that blacks and Chinese were evil. Okay, just because they had a different skin color. So, if you eliminate fear, as far as innate fear, if you will, and this is what people will find. Man, I do agree with you, Dave. You're likely looking at a good 100 years down the road, at least, before we get to the point of aliens walking freely among us. But if you eliminate that fear, that's what you're going to have, is people just coming and going without any difference, wide array of interracial friendships that are actually interracial.
Well, I understand that. I mean, there's going to be a blend of things. That's only obvious. It's happening with humanity now, and I think it's wonderful. And, but there's a lot to go. I mean, Keith, it's easy to say that about what we're going through on society right now and how everything is kind of melding together and blending together, which is what humanity is supposed to be all about. However, when you bring somebody from off planet, or something from off planet, that's a whole different ballgame, man. Whole different ballgame. Humans aren't that trustworthy.
In all fairness, in a sense, you're right, but it's actually not as strange. It's not actually as different as you might think. If you take a look, and let's just go with the obvious. Take somebody born in India. And don't teach them about Canada and move them over here. They react differently, they think differently, they have different expectations. If you take somebody born on a different planet and you bring them here without training and without educating both sides of the board, both the receiving country and the originating one, then you're going to have problems. Gene Roddenberry put it brilliantly when he said the biggest problem mankind will have when dealing with aliens is there is no cultural similarity. There's no cultural communication line. Because the aliens won't know if they are not trained, and if humans are not trained to deal with them, you've got no common point of reference. Which is where the hybridization program came into existence in the first place.
All right, let's move on to another question here.
Absolutely.
And let's go to Twitter. Now, Jake on Twitter at #SpacedOutRadio, he's sitting on his patio right now, having a drink, smoking a cigar. Living the dream right now, Jake. Living the dream. I'm a little jealous. He says, given the Calvin Parker abduction, Pascagoula UFO incident, Keith states that during the time he was taken on, one of the alien ships was like reptilian and one was Nordic type. Keith, have you ever heard of both species working together before?
Absolutely. I'm not sure which reptilian he was taken by. I need a little more information than that. But the Nordics are known to interact with the other races because Nordics look so close to human that their presence helps humans relax. Okay. Now, my guess is you're probably dealing with the Srizazians, as far as that goes, especially if it was benevolent interaction. The Srizazians being your 7.5 to 8.5 foot reptilians. They are one of the more likely, especially if it's benevolent, because the Nordics are a benevolent race. So it's quite common to see both races, multiple races on different ships. For those that don't know, we also have to realize that there is something called the Galactic Consortium, which is an overall it's an interstellar community. And that's what mankind is being brought up to speed for.
I see that, and I can appreciate that. I really can. Right? But, I mean, in the end, we do have to, getting back to Jake's question here for a second, we do have to wonder what kind of conglomerates are there way up in the sky. Because even though we want to believe there's good out there, we do have to beware. We do have to be a little weary.
Oh, heavens, yeah. It would be foolhardy to go out there thinking everything is roses and everybody gets along. Okay, like Trippin in Spreaker has asked a question here. Why do people give downloads without teaching them how to use the downloads? Well, here's the reason. You drop the information in. When people have to realize, humans are getting there, that mankind is leaving Earth. Well, in all fairness, mankind has left Earth. Okay. And it's absolutely correct that there are a lot of beneficial, a lot of neutral people out there, but there are problems. And therefore, having an understanding of the potential dangers, having some sort of way, even if it's only a rudimentary defense mechanism, it's still a very necessary thing. Only a fool would go into outer space without some sort of protection. Some sort of understanding of what's going on first. It's like, when people first started crossing the oceans, they went out expecting conflict, expecting problems, because it's stupid to figure everything's going to go smoothly.
Mm-hmm. I can see that. I can totally see that.
The funny part is that the aliens are actually more worried about humans than humans are about the aliens.
That I don't believe.
Yeah, I know. It's not a question of whether the off-worlders can kill humans. They could wipe the planet out in a heartbeat if they wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
But mankind has 3 things going for it that is almost insurmountable by any other race.
Right.
Now, the will to survive is a questionable one as to who's got the higher will. However, mankind's curiosity is literally a killer for a lot of people, because mankind, on the whole, is an extremely curious and aggressively curious race. And the other thing that is even more dangerous as far as the off-worlders are concerned is mankind's ability to tap into what humans have called 0-point energy. What they've learned how to do is tap into the collective consciousness to make things happen. And that makes it a deadly weapon when you figure out how to use it.
Let's move on here to another question. Joe is asking, do grays ever make a single loud plastic sounding click? I heard one of my in the right of my backyard one night during listening to Spaced Out Radio, and then one to the left of my barn.
And that would be, and the answer to that, Joe, is absolutely yes. That is, they're literally telling each other where they are so that they don't get left behind when they're doing an exploration or they're doing a. When I talk about a collection in this case, I'm referring to herbological or possibly an animal collection, not an abduction thing. But that's their way of letting each other know where they are.
Do they all sound different? So, for instance, if you had, say, the 5-foot grays, do they sound different than the 3-foot grays? Do they sound different than the 6-foot grays? Do they
individually? The answer is absolutely yes.
Okay. So, for instance, the Zeta Reticulans would sound different than the Draco grays.
Well, a Zeta Reticulan will sound different than a Zeta Reticulan. They're individuals.
Okay.
Okay, it's just like humans. No, contrary to popular belief, all humans do not sound alike. And it's the same thing. You're dealing with individuals. But do they have different languages or different dialects? The answer to that is also yes.
Okay. So when they bring it here and they start their type sound, how do we translate that? What are we trying to get at?
Well, sure, ask me a question like that. How do I answer that one? It really depends on what they're doing. Okay, because that is you're listening to a different language is what it boils down to. And depending on what they're up to will determine what all the chittering is about. Okay, they may be talking about a specific find they found. They may be just simply locating where the other is and saying, hey, would you grab me the spanner because I got to get this measurement done, or get me another container. Could be any number of possibilities as to what the conversations are. And think of it this way. If I walk into Chinatown in Vancouver, or anybody walks anywhere near somebody that you don't know their language, and you listen to them talk, it sounds weird. No disrespect intended regarding anybody.
Well, it sounds different because we don't understand it. We can't comprehend it, Keith.
Same problem with these guys. And yet there are people that when you hear a language, you may not understand what they're saying, but you can get the gist of what they're saying or the intention of it. Okay. Right. And it works exactly the same way because of a shift in the tone, a shift in the, in the bearing of the person. And I'll use the term person a little loosely. Okay. We'll just call that an individual across the board.
Okay. All right. Let's go to BTO's question. He is saying, black holes are the gateway to leave this universe to go into the multiverse. Could you explain that?
Well, ultimately, he's sort of right. Black holes, when stuff goes through a black hole, it's not, a black hole is not okay. When matter goes through a black hole, it gets pulled apart to its subquantum levels. And then when it gets to the other side, it reconfigures itself in another fashion. Hence the issue of, if you will, the Big Bang. Wormholes are the way to get through the multiverse. Okay. Two very big differences. Now, the black hole will put you into a different part of the multiverse, but it totally decimates you and you can't explore anything because you're long since dead by the time you get out of it. But they are a link, yes. The best way to look at a black hole is this. You remember the old, back in the 70s, they had those funny little countertop ornaments where they had the colored oil on the top, and when you flipped it over, it dripped through holes to form on the bottom.
Yes.
That essentially is the way black holes work. The matter goes through a black hole and reforms on the other side. Net result, you have you have planets and what have you coming together in new configurations. But everything that goes into a black hole, or virtually everything, there is a little bit of feedback. It's not that nothing comes out of a black hole, but it's kind of like if you turn the water tap on too fast, you'll get backsplash. Same issue with a black hole.
Interesting. All right, let's move on to another question here. Trip is asking, wouldn't the time traveler have to calculate the rotation of the planets as well, like aiming for Mars in inches but using metric or something along those lines?
Ultimately correct. Okay, when you're going to travel forward in time, you have to, because the universe it does progress in a static pattern. Okay, most of the time. You've got to gauge when you're moving where that planet is going to be. Okay, where that location you're trying to get to is going to be. And it's a rather complex calculation, and I'm not going to go into the way they do that one, but you're absolutely right. It's a very delicate, very pinpoint maneuver, because when they go to make the jump, you have to do it on the split second that you're aiming for in order to get where you're aiming. And then pray that something didn't go sideways that you weren't planning on. So obviously the further into the future you go, the more dangerous the more specific that calculation must be. Because you go 1,000 years into the future, and it is quite possible that an asteroid knocked something off guard and took the planet out you're aiming to, at which point your one-way trip just became painfully short.
Mm-hmm. All right, let's move on here, because we've got a couple questions here before we go to break in about 9 minutes here. This one from Yvonne. She says, as I understand it, aliens are not here to save humankind, but to preserve the planet. Am I right on this?
Ultimately, yes. There are some aliens that are here to help mankind. But the overall purpose is to make sure that mankind, or somebody else for that matter, doesn't actually destroy the planet. Okay, so given the choice, am I going to save a human or am I going to save the planet? The human loses. Now, that's not, don't take it to extremes. They won't save a human in order to protect a tree. Okay, there are other races that do that one. But yeah, the primary doctrine is keep the planet safe. Keep mankind, because mankind is the dominant, sentient, surface-dwelling, technologically advanced race on the planet. Therefore, mankind is the one that is supposed to take care of the planet. But the off-worlders are here to watch the evolution of the planet, watch the evolution of civilization, track it, record it, experience it, if you will, but they're not here to govern the evolution of man.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Okay. So, if we are here and they want to learn about us, why not try and preserve us if they aren't trying to take us over?
Why try and preserve us?
Yeah.
Well, it's not so much trying to preserve mankind. Okay. It's a question of trying to make sure that mankind doesn't destroy the planet while it decides how it's going to evolve. Right. You got to remember, maybe you don't, but from a xeno-socioeconomic standpoint, which is what the off-worlders are looking at, what mankind is doing right now, they've done before. It's kind of like failing a test the first time, now they're making another run at it. But this is, from a studying standpoint, it is extremely exciting to watch this happen, to watch the evolution of the race in real time. Think, if you will, the difference between studying ancient Greece, for a human to study ancient Greece by looking at the writings and looking at the ruins of the civilization, and studying ancient Greece as ancient Greece collapsed. Okay, the difference is unimaginable. Well, almost.
Char wants to know, she says, Keith, I love you, but how can you know so much? I don't think your brain is human.
That is a very long conversation, but in a nutshell, here's part of the issue. At 20 months old, I had a fever of 108.4 that flash fried the hypothalamus, which is the connective tissue between the right and left hemispheres. Left the cerebral cortex and the frontal lobe connected. That separation, when a child takes brain damage, the brain will reorganize itself and will rewire itself. In my case, both the right and left hemisphere, although they were still in existence, thought the other half was gone, therefore replicated a fundamental right and left hemisphere on both sides. Net result, my brain works a little differently. How's that for a Reader's Digest answer of a clinical denial of a clinical?
And here I thought you were just shocked a little bit too much by a wave of electricity that made your hair go poof as well.
Well, that may well have been the case, although I'm not the one that got hit with lightning.
All right, let's get to another question here from Char. She's saying, in regards to the clicking sounds that we were making earlier, she says humans can make that sound with equipment too, right?
Absolutely. But here's the kicker. Can you make it in such a way that it actually makes sense? You see, being able to make, even if we take a look at the sounds of the Japanese alphabet, if you can make those sounds, that's great. But if you don't understand cultural inference and the linguistic structure of it, you're going to be speaking in gibberish. It's the same issue with the clicking, because it's the subharmonics that they work with. Well, it's a combination, but if you're tapping on glass or tapping on a table, it's one tone. Depending on where you hit, you can get slightly different ones. When you're dealing with an actual linguistics interpretation of it, you're looking at a complete skeletal system designed for that language.
Very cool. Very cool. We only have a couple minutes here before we got to go to our final break of the night. I'm going to get to Joe's question here. He says, do aliens, Keith, pretending to be owls, have different colored eyes?
Well, here's where we run into a problem. Number one, some aliens do have different colored eyes. And I forget what the term is, but where one eye is a different color than the other. However, let's take a look at the other side of that. Aliens don't, as it were, pretend to be owls. However, they have been known to use an overlay because the large eyes that the Greys have are very easily mistaken for owl eyes. So it's very easy to use that in the way of a mental overlay to, hide what's been going on. Now, there is a race called the Uka, which are basically owls. So they don't pretend to look like owls, they just are.
Cool. So, with people who are having these experiences with owls, are they, every time they see an owl, going to be taken?
No. Not even close to every time they see an owl. As a matter of fact, the one problem there is more often than not, what happens is if they're seeing the owls every time they see one, they're going to fear being taken or fear that they were.
Right. Okay. All right. We got about a minute here before we got to go to break. In regards to the owls still, there are a lot of people who are trained to have this preconceived notion that when they are going to be taken, they see an owl close by, maybe looking out a window and seeing a tree or sitting on their patio or someplace within view. Would that owl then be some sort of extraterrestrial messenger?
This is going to sound almost like a sidestep, but sometimes. See, the people that are trained to see owls, okay, basically the moment you start training somebody to see a given thing, you literally are interfering with the communicative capacity that is inherently available. It's kind of like lucid dreaming. If you're taught to control your dreams, the purpose of dreams becomes irrelevant.
Right. Okay. On that note, we're going to go out to break here. And our Keith Andrews is our guest tonight on Spaced Out Radio. He comes in the first Friday of every month to talk about the ET connection. And we've got him for another half an hour here before we say goodnight to Keith until November 2nd. It's always good to have Keith on. It's a good way to start off the month with a little alien talk from our resident ET expert. We'll be back with more right after this.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long. Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio. Tonight, I am your host, Dave Scott. Good to have you with us. Tomorrow night on the program and on Sunday, Tessa Nicole Thomas will be back for Spaced Out Weekend while I'm off in the wilderness finding my Zen, my Chi, and some firewood. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Also, all of our archives are free on our YouTube channel, youtube.com/spacedoutradio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Fascio-auriculovertebral. Fascio-auriculovertebral. is your password. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. You can rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. For the final time tonight, we introduce our Keith Andrews. He comes in the first Friday of every month for a little ditty we call here the ET Connection, talking all things alien, strange, and weird. Mr. Keith, welcome back.
Thank you for having me.
Not
and
a problem.
Welcome to all our listeners.
Not a problem. Not a problem at all, my friend. It's always great to have you on here. Always great. Yvonne has a question here. She says, maybe it's just a comment. She goes, I was Armstrong's moon trip in which aliens were there with structures in place and astronauts were told to leave. So further exploration ended. What do you think about that for Neil Armstrong and the Apollo missions?
Well, number one, there's an entire setup on the over there that they undoubtedly came across. And at the time, if you take a look at what was going on with mankind, I have no doubt that mankind was told to leave at that point. However, did that stop the moon missions? Did that stop the interaction? The answer is no. And no, I'm not going to try and prove that one. We'll figure out how to prove that later. But at the state the world was in and the state of evolution that man was in at the time, man was certainly not even close to being ready to deal with off-worlders. So certainly telling them to get away from there was undoubtedly a priority at that point.
Mm-hmm. I'm still a little unsure about that. I think they found something. I also believe in the reports that I heard that Neil Armstrong had said on an emergency line. They're here, they're on their hill, and they're watching us, or something along those lines. You know, and that's kind of where I go with that. I think, and I've read books on this, that every NASA launch, one way or another, seems to be followed by UFOs, going back to the Apollo missions. Yeah. So I think there is some intrigue there. And I think, why wouldn't they watch us? Why wouldn't they want to see where we're going and what our capabilities are?
And the answer is definitively, you're correct. Okay, this is, when mankind bridged that gap, okay, when mankind bridged the gap between Earth and the moon, that was the start of the space race, if you will, or at least the current start of it. And net result, the off-worlders started paying very close attention to what man was doing and how they were doing it. What their drive was, if you will.
So do you think...
And that's been ongoing ever since.
Yeah, so do you think that there is a true intrigue on the part of these alien species to watch our launches, to see where
Absolutely.
we can attain to? And would they... Okay, so if you say absolutely to that, which you just did, are they kind of laughing at us that, in the 60s and 70s, we're preparing and going to the moon, and now we can't get above 300 miles above the Earth?
Well, this is something that is a difference between what the aliens are watching, what the government is up to, and what the common populace is being told. Okay. Because mankind has left Earth, has been, and you won't get the proof of this one until about 30 years down the road. Mankind has been on Mars for a long time. They've got a station set up on Io, which is a moon around Jupiter, and they've recently set one up on Titan. They're just not telling you about it.
So how do you know this?
Well, I guess I can go with the easy answer of I've been there. Can I prove it? No. That being said, I look at the past things that I've made claim to and go, I told people back in the 70s that the triple helix was the backbone of the human genome. not the double helix. Speaking of DNA configurations, they didn't find the triple helix until the late 90s, 98 or early 99. Same issue now. I know they've done it, but you'll get your proof in about 30 years.
Okay. No, and I can appreciate that. I really can. Okay. I totally
absolutely.
Can. But when it comes to the space program, do you think there was any note or message of any sort saying, don't come back to the moon, or we're watching what you're doing and you're going a little bit too fast? What do you think happened there?
Well, I am absolutely certain that they had some sort of interaction. They probably, it is likely they got more of a sensation of don't come back, coupled with the fear of what the heck are we supposed to do with that, because there's not supposed to be anybody out here. Okay. So, from that end, they undoubtedly slowed things down for a short period, but mankind's curiosity wouldn't let them slow it down for long. So have there been ongoing cautions of, you're moving too fast, if you do that at this point, you're in trouble, that sort of thing. And not as in they'll be in trouble so much as they will have an accident. That's where the guidance started coming in.
Right. Okay. I can accept that.
Yeah, that's the easiest way to look at it. But, there's no question that they saw something up there.
Right. BTO has a question. Is the moon artificial now, taken away during the Orion Wars, and is it part of the earthly matrix to control us?
Well, first of all, let's take the control thing and throw it out the window. It's not there for that purpose at all. Secondly, the moon itself never was artificial, and nor was it ever taken away. And thirdly, there is going to be another neat little thing, because the government is in the process of lining things up to move an asteroid, a large asteroid, into orbit around the moon to use as a base point for interstellar ship construction. But that's going to be a number of years down the road yet.
Will mankind get the technology they need from the extraterrestrials if we haven't got it already?
They're already on the track of getting it. They just have to build the power levels a little higher.
Have we built it ourselves?
Quite frankly, by what I know of, the answer is yes. And the reason that the off-worlders won't give them that technology and just go, here it is because if they give mankind that level of potentially damaging technology, mankind will cause a massive cataclysm on this planet by accident. It's kind of like if you're teaching your kid to drive, you don't hand him a Formula One car and cut him loose in the middle of a major city. If he's just getting his driver's license. So they're not, the tractor beam technology that is going to be required to do that, the off-worlders are not going to turn it over.
Why not? I thought they wanted us to be a part of their group.
They absolutely do, but they also want mankind to be able to handle the technology that comes up.
Explain that.
Well, if you turn over technology that's capable of yanking a meteor, or not a meteor rather, but an asteroid, out of orbit and transporting it elsewhere, if mankind has not developed the safeguards and the control mechanisms that they understand fully before they try and do it, a miscalculation will put said asteroid into one of two places. One, it'll be pulled into the moon and destroy something there. Or two, it'll be cut loose and quite potentially take out a massive chunk of Earth. Neither one of these outcomes is really enjoyable. Okay, so it's a question of making certain that mankind figures out how to deal with things. One of the biggest issues that you got to remember when you're dealing with tractor beam technology, you're dealing with gravity, and mankind is still looking at gravity backwards. And until they flip that around, they're going to have troubles.
All right. I guess that makes sense. Sandra is asking, Keith, was there something going on in Manitoba in the mid-'70s with aliens?
Yeah, fair chunk, actually.
What was going on there?
Well, they're in northern Churchill. No, not in northern Churchill. In northern Manitoba, like way north of Churchill, Manitoba, there is a research station out there, out in the middle of nowhere, that is an interactive human-alien interaction. And that's been going on out there, quite frankly, since the mid-'60s.
All right. Okay. Like during the 60s, in 1967, we had the Falcon Lake incident, which became a coin this year by the Canadian Mint. And that's
nice.
Stefan Mikulik he saw a UFO land on the ground, and he went and touched it. It burnt the fingertips of his gloves that he was wearing, went to step inside, and the ship decided to take off, and when it did, it burnt his chest and his clothing.
Which makes total sense when you think of the technologies.
Exactly. But it didn't kill him. Could have, but it didn't kill him.
It could have. And if he'd have been on the wrong side of it when it took off, it really could have created a problem.
Exactly.
I mean, if you think about it, the field around it is hyperfriction. So him touching it, the friction is likely what caused the burn.
Yeah, it's an incredible story. And then you have Charlie Red Star that Grant Cameron wrote about, and that was a UFO incident that was seen near the Manitoba-North Dakota border.
Yeah.
So
Manitoba's a great place.
Yeah, explain that.
Well, when you look at Manitoba, it isn't as heavily populated, making as a lot of places in Canada. And therefore, it makes it much easier to do some of your research or to get samples of some of the local flora and fauna without involving mankind. Okay. And like I said, up in the northern end, you have the ability, because there's nobody out there, of constructing all sorts of things. Down in North Dakota, or rather down at the border, right, in all likelihood, it was more a chance encounter, if you will, not planned on, that they simply had to deal with.
All right. Let's move on. This one comes from Trip. He is asking, Keith, have you been able to look into the Mayans and Aztecs? Which race was the Nazca lines made for, and what are the Nazca lines meaning?
Well, the Nazca lines are actually, how can I put this? If I recall correctly, as far as which race used them more, I believe that was the Aztec used the Nazca lines, but those were actually not made for the Aztec. The lines themselves were made for the Offworlders, but the Aztecs learned how to read them, which, they learned how, what they were was markers and, if you will, message board, I think is the best way to put it. But they were designed to be seen from a much higher altitude than the Aztec ever got to.
What's with the weird shapes, like the bird, the human? What do you think those are supposed to stand for?
Those are literally some of what the off-worlders in question were finding. They were some of the more, if you will, dominant races at the time. Or what they perceived, I think is a better way of putting it, perceived as dominant race. Needless to say, because they, at that point, the particular people involved that made the marks were just starting to explore. And net result, this was their way of saying, hey, if you show up, these are some of the dominant races we've been watching.
Here's an interesting question for you. Much like Earth is divided into continents and hemispheres and everything along those lines, the aliens that we see here in North America, let's take your typical gray, keep it simple. Are there different species focusing on different parts of the world? Like, for instance, would there be a race that, say, only comes to Canada and a race that only, say, goes to Australia?
Only? Not exactly, but primarily the answer is yes. Okay, now the Greys are an exception. Okay, because they basically go all over the planet. And since the Nords work hand in hand with them, quite often you'll find the Nords pretty much anywhere. However, you take a look at the Chitawari, you'll find them in Africa. You look for the Quadli, you'll find them down in South and Central America. When you look at Srazazian, they are primarily in North America. If you're in Teklek, of course, you'll find them periodically wherever, but they're an odd race. When you take a look at the... trying to think of the name offhand. But when you take a look at the octopod, which you don't see many of, they're way down in the Australian area, where they can quite literally, functionally fit in. And no, that's nothing against the people of Australia. It has more to do with the coral reef. Okay. When you take a look at, for instance, let me just think here. Oh, when you take a look at your lichen, okay, you start looking, and especially with the Laborian and the feline lichen, you're looking into Egypt. Okay, that's where your dominant people end up going. And yeah, essentially it's a case of kind of like, if you will, mind claims. This is where I'm, this is where you basically look at it. They go in, they consult with the consortium itself. The consortium says, yes, you can go and study in that area. Leave this area alone because these people are dealing with it. That's one of the controllers, one of the control mechanisms they have, is making certain that it doesn't turn into, let's everybody go down and take people, or create complications.
All right. So, what about, in regards to that topic, say something along the lines of humanoids? Okay. Whether it's the Pleiadians, whether it's the Arcturians, or whatever other species of humanoid that could be out there, would they then focus on different parts of the world due to genetics? Say, for instance, concentrate more on the Middle East because that's kind of where mankind began? How does this work?
Well, it more boils down to, when you start looking at the real human-looking ones, the people they send down is more, it literally more has to do with with the individual off-worlders' physical configuration to match the local fauna. Okay, meaning the local peoples. So if you're sending an off-worlder down into a predominantly white neighborhood or predominantly Caucasian neighborhood, then you're going to send somebody that fits with the same appearance.
Okay. So what about species and animals, alien species and animals? Would, say, Pleiadians pick up tigers? Would Greys pick up elephants? You know what I'm saying?
I understand what you're saying there. Okay. And the Greys, more often than not, you're looking at people like your Nordics that would go in as far as when you're talking about collecting fauna and flora, right? The Greys, being pure scientists, will absolutely pick up whatever's available or whatever they happen to be on the study for.
Right.
Okay. When you're looking at the Teklex are, when you bring up the idea of picking up an elephant, any one of the reptilian races, if they wanted to pick up an elephant, that's what they'll get because of the amount of meat. Okay. A couple of exceptions. You'll never see a Srazazian or any one of the heavy reptilians trying to pick up an alligator. Okay. An alligator or a lizard.
What about the octopus, where many people believe it's not of this planet?
Well, that's the neat thing. There are a number of the octopod that aren't of this planet, but the actual octopus itself is an evolutionary oddity on this planet. It just happens to match one of the races that isn't from here. And in answer to the question of, well, it's so different, so's the platypus.
Yeah, platypus is just cute, though.
It is.
Octopus octopi are
yep.
just ugly. They're an ugly animal, honestly. They have a face only a mother could love.
Yeah, but they got a grip like a vice.
That is true. Same as their ugly counterpart, the squid. Oh, ugly. Ugly.
I find them fascinating.
We only got about 3.5 minutes left with you tonight. Tripp is going to get the last question of the night, saying, Mr. Andrews, have you ever thought about writing a script for a TV series or movies?
Thought about it, the answer is yes. Oddly enough, I'm in the process of, I'm just about to release a novel that could actually get turned into one. And that's I've mentioned it to you before, the Elderbach series that I'm writing.
Yes.
Could quite conceivably be turned into a movie given a little bit of time. But have I thought about it? Absolutely.
Very cool. Very, very cool, my friend. Do me a favor. Let everybody know how they can get a hold of you.
Easiest way to get a hold of me is, and first of all, thanks very much for that question, Trippin. Easiest way to get a hold of me is either contact me right through Spaced Out Radio here. I'm sure Dave will pass it on, or drop me a line at innervoiceenterprises@yahoo.ca. And of course, you can find me on Facebook under Ronald Keith Andrews or Inner Voice Enterprises. I've got a hand-carved wooden UFO as my picture on Facebook. And of course, my YouTube channel, which is R. Keith Andrews, is my YouTube channel. I think those are the easiest ways to find me.
And on Twitter, R. Keith Andrews.
Oh, there we go. Yes, I am also on Twitter. I'm going to get back to all of that.
Exactly. Twitter's a lot of fun. Lots of snarkiness on there, which is always good. Always, always good. Mr. Keith, appreciate it, my friend. Always a pleasure having you on to come fill us in on the ET Connection, talking all things alien. The next time we will talk to you, we only got 2 shows left for the year, man. 2 shows left. The next time we will see you will be on Friday, November 2nd. And I'm sure that will just fly here, make it all easy and quick.
Oh yeah, it will. I mean, it's been a fast year again. It's absolutely impossible to believe how quick it goes. Well, not impossible, but pretty close.
Very, very true. You have yourself a wonderful night, my friend.
You too. Take care.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, because this weekend, just for our American listeners, this is Canadian Thanksgiving weekend here. So, yes, we do turkey, cranberries, poutine, all the Canadian stuff. But you have a great Thanksgiving with you and your boys.
Happy Thanksgiving to you and yours as well.
All right. Coming up next, we have Everett Themer and The Encounter and Faux News Friday.
This is the winter of our lives. We come to play the final scene. The curtains closing in the darkness we expose what lies beneath.
It's Friday night, which means it's back for Faux News Friday here on The Encounter with Everett Themer, our intrepid news director and president of Team Stump. Right here on Spaced Out Radio, Everett comes on in every single night, talking about the weird, the wacky, and the WTF of the day and week that has gone by. You can get all of your information on The Encounter by going to spacedoutradio.com, click on the news section, and boom, there it is, with our intrepid reporter, Captain Gail Shirk, doing a great job in there. Thank you, Gail. We got some more writers coming up to fill in some spaces as well. Mr. Themer, what's going on, my friend?
Hey, how are you?
Good. I am very good. I got to tell you, I had a weird experience today. Nothing paranormal. Nothing paranormal whatsoever. So, I'm driving in the forest today, trying to get some trees cut. And I just sharpened my chain, and it's dull. So I had to put my chainsaw away. So my buddy, who's a hunter, he's like, do you mind if we spend a couple of hours here going hunting? And I'm like, sure. So we climb up this mountain in my truck, climb down the mountainside, and come across this weird looking pile of feces. It was it was orange, and it had like seeds all in it. And I'm like, what the hell is this?
Alien poop?
I don't know. I actually took a picture of it. I did. I took a picture of it, too, as a matter of fact. But I'd never seen feces like this before. So I called up Bazooka Joe. I'm like, dude, what is this? Apparently it was grizzly bear poop.
I didn't know you guys had grizzlies up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, we were in prime grizzly territory, man. I was looking for one.
How do you even leave the house? You have everything that can kill you up there.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I actually want to see a grizzly. And it's funny because as we were right by, maybe half a mile from where the bear poop was, this lady comes down in her truck with her dog in the back. The dog's name was Mo. Really cute dog. One of them Bernese mountain dogs.
Oh, cool.
Gorgeous dog. Anyways, she's like, how's the hunting going? I'm like, terrible. She goes, what you hunting for today? I said, Sasquatch. She kind of snickered. She goes, my husband found a track of Sasquatch prints a few years ago.
In that area?
Yeah, she's like, I believe you. I believe you. No, it was a little bit more north. Not much. Probably within 50, 60 miles.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. But she's like, yeah, my husband he's a logger, and he was working out on at one of these, and they found a track of prints. Really freaked him out. I said, well, that's what I'm looking for. I said, that guy over there, he's looking for deer. Didn't find any deer, but nonetheless, here
so how long until you go up there and do a little Bigfoot hunting?
Well, every time I go into the forest, I am, man. Always looking for signs. Always. But it was weird, man. It was weird. All of a sudden you come across that big pile.
every week you tell me about some sort of animal that you've come either found evidence of or run into, and every one of them can eat you.
Yeah,
I'm starting to think that maybe I'll stay where I'm at.
Oh, well. Oh, no. You just come. Yeah, we found giant moose tracks. Giant moose tracks today. Found wolf tracks, fox tracks, grouse, deer, cattle, horses, grizzly bear poo, lots of bear prints. Lots of bear prints. That was actually kind of cool.
That would be kind of cool. It would be. I mean, I think, I don't know, I saw a fox for the first time today in a long time, and that's cool. That's kind of cool. But that's the most dangerous thing we have around here.
Yeah, I got foxes in my green belt behind my house. They're kind of cool. There's 2 of them. They run around the neighborhood. I like them. But, yeah, man. What's really cool is, like, right now all the snow is melting, thank goodness. And so all the back roads are muddy. And so when the animals go through, they leave just some really impressive prints. And, it's amazing. If you slow down to like 3-4 miles an hour and you just tapping your brake, let the vehicle just roll on its own and just tap your brake, it's amazing what you see in the trees. That if you were going even like 20 miles an hour or 35 kilometers an hour up here in Canada, it's amazing what you miss.
I totally believe that. I mean, you can miss a lot going through the woods driving.
Oh yeah. We missed a big bull moose today with the racks. I've never seen a big bull moose with the giant rack and the antlers.
Neither have I.
I've always wanted to see one. I've seen moose before. I've seen 3 moose in the wild. Well, 4 now. But I want a picture of the big rack. You know what I'm saying? Because that's impressive. That's really impressive.
Some of those can be huge.
Oh, yeah. Now, the moose we have here aren't as big as the ones in Alaska and the Yukon, even northern British Columbia. They're not that big. But they're still 1,100 pounds.
That is a monstrous animal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yet another thing that can hurt you or kill you.
Oh, yeah. You got to be aware. And it's funny because my buddy Jason, who I went out with today, and we're going back out tomorrow morning because I got to get some firewood. I went and bought 2 new chains afterwards.
Good
Can't
for you.
Mess around with them. But my buddy Jason, we walk down this trail, and he's looking for deer and grouse, and he hands me a rifle. And I mean, there's a lot of our American and even Canadian listeners who are going to like roll their eyes on it. You call me a wimp or whatever. You don't know how to, carry a rifle, but it was awkward for me because I've never done that before. Carried a rifle into the wilderness. But he's like, he has me hold his shotgun, and he's like, just in case. And I'm like, okay, how do I turn this safety off? Because I literally don't know. I literally do not know.
I don't picture you as a hunter at all.
No, not even close. And he asked me today, he's like, I don't have my hunting license or anything like that. And he's like, do you want to take a couple of shots? Get a grouse? Because up here in Canada, I'm with him, and he can claim it on his tag. And I'm like, nope, not into killing animals.
Now, we don't, at least in my area, we don't have grouse. Is that I'm guessing a game bird?
Yeah, it's like a wild hen. They're about the size of a hen.
So it tastes like gamey chicken.
Yeah. Yeah, literally. It's like a hen. That's one of the only wild meats I actually don't mind. Not a fan not a fan of deer.
I can get a whole chicken at the grocery store for about $5 American and not have to sit out in the woods with a gun to get it.
I agree. But I got to tell you, this was the first time I've actually been hunting. All right. And it was kind of cool. It was really kind of cool. The experience, the adrenaline reminded me a lot of fishing. But the one thing I don't like about hunting, okay, and I got a lot of friends who hunt, and I don't hold it against them, all right, because they're not just there for the kill. They're there for the meat and the food that it provides for their families. And I'm okay with game hunting that way. I don't like this sport trophy hunting crap that you see happening in Africa, or, people taking giant grizzly bears or moose just for a rack or a rug. I don't like that. I mean, eat the meat. You're killing the animal, eat the meat. Use it for what it's supposed to be used for, rather than something hanging on your wall. Nonetheless, I could rant about that all night. But I don't question anybody who is hunting for food, all right? Because if they're going to do it right, do it right. Be thankful that God, or whatever you believe in, gave you the ability to provide food for your family.
Yeah, and I'm...
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
No, please.
I was just going to say that I'm not anti-hunters. In fact, we have hunters that come on our property. I just can't pull the trigger.
No, I can't either. I don't want to. But you know what? What I was getting at is I'm an avid fisherman. Love my fishing. And about 10 years ago, I made a conscious decision that I no longer wanted to kill fish. So I do everything catch and release. To me, the photograph is way more cool than killing the animal for food. I don't eat fish, so why should I kill the animal? Right?
Yeah, I understand.
I know a lot of people who do eat fish. I could give it to them, but I don't. All I want is the photograph. That's it. Good enough for me.
See, I still don't like killing fish, but I eat fish. Right. So when we pull them out of the lake, sometimes we catch and release. But at the same time, there's nothing like a lunch of really fresh bluegills fried up an hour after they've been caught.
Yeah. See, what's really cool is up here, we have this evasive species. Remember the other night we were talking about evasive species?
Yeah.
Well, we have these evasive species called pike minnows that are in the lakes and in the river system here. Mostly in lakes. If they get in the rivers, holy cow. Anyways, there's an unlimited cull on them. So a lot of times what we'll do is we'll go fishing for these pike minnows, and then you have to kill them because they're the ones killing all of the salmon runs in the area by eating all the eggs that are produced by some of these species. Anyways, what's really cool is when you knock one on the head, okay, and you kill it, you throw it back in the lake, but you throw it up really high. And the reason why you throw it up really high is the bald eagles here are always watching. And the next thing you know, after that fish makes a splash, here you have this beautiful picture of this bald eagle coming in and swooping down into the water with its giant talons, grabbing this fish. It is a beautiful, beautiful thing.
I thought you were going to say the eagle caught it in midair and flew away.
That has happened. Not with us. But if the eagles were circling, I would totally try that. I remember one time we were doing this on this popular lake called Cultus Lake. Now, Cultus Lake used to have hundreds of thousands of sockeye salmon and steelhead trout populating and breeding in that lake. And when the pike minnow arrived, they're lucky to get 1,000 fish a year out of that lake now. Lucky.
Wow.
Right. Like talk about decimation. But anyways, we were fishing along the shorelines and catching these pike minnows, and next thing a bus of tourists show up. And the minute they saw the eagles coming down and seen what we were doing, man, there was probably 1,000 pictures taken of us trying to feed these eagles. It was awesome.
That must have made you feel special.
Yeah, it was. It was kind of cool. And believe it or not, I think I was the only guy out of 5 of us who got skunked that day.
So you don't have a problem slapping a fish on the head and,
if it's
and
an
killing
invasive
it?
if it's an invasive species that's killing the natural habitat.
I'll give you that.
Yeah. That's the way I go. This is what Mike B said on Twitter. Uses a chainsaw instead of an axe, can't hold a long gun, and doesn't like the taste of deer. And I thought I was a city slicker. Ouch.
He does make a point.
I know. I'm learning, though. I'm learning. I still haven't even figured out how to
You can't use a
plaid.
chainsaw.
I use a chainsaw. I could use my axe. In fact, it's called a maul. M-A-U-L. Maul.
I thought a maul had a blade on one side and a flat head on the other.
It does.
Okay. See, my
That's what I
axe
have.
has a blade on both sides.
Yeah. Mine doesn't. I got a real heavy maul. It's awesome. Anyways, Faux News Friday, my friend. What do you got for us?
Well, talking about questionable and gamey meat, we have a story coming out of a Golden Corral buffet and grill in Richmond, Virginia. Apparently, one of the waitresses there, a woman named Sarah Ferguson, went to work at 11 o'clock in the morning, yesterday morning,
Yeah.
and she saw some kids sitting in a car in the parking lot. And she had thought that the owner of the car, the kids' parents, had just run into one of the stores nearby real quick. And when she came out of work 8 hours later, the children were still sitting in the car.
Uh-oh.
It turns out their mother was in the restaurant for 8 hours eating at the buffet, and this waitress, Sarah, was the one who served her. So she called the police, and the police arrived and let the kids out. And in a statement, she said, she saw them in the car when I arrived, and I thought their mother was going to do some quick shopping. But when I finished my shift, they were still there. She was shocked and horrified to find out the mother had been sitting in the restaurant for 8 hours eating as her customer, where she served her about 30 plates.
This
And now
sounds
the-
like fake news.
It is fake news.
I hope
it's
so.
Faux News Friday.
I know. But I feel a little riled up being a parent. You know that?
Well, I've seen things in the real news that are very similar to this.
Mm-hmm. I think we all have.
Maybe not the sitting for, 8 hours in a restaurant, but there have been a lot of cases of children getting left in cars for extended period of time while the parents are shopping or at a casino or even at a bar.
Yeah, and we've had that happen around us. I was at a bar one night where a guy got arrested because he left his kids in the car for 4 hours while he's at the bar. And it was
That's
one of
horrible.
those days when it was like 85, 90 degrees Fahrenheit up here in Canada.
That's terrible.
Yeah. Yeah, it was absolutely horrific. Horrific. So go on with this story here for a second, because you had my adrenaline rushing there for a little bit.
Well, that's really the entire story. This mother of 4 now faces 4 charges of child neglect and up to 20 years in prison.
And yet, did this lady make this up, or did the media outlet trying to get clickbait?
This appears to be this popped up on several Facebook news feeds and a couple of different places. This just appears to be a story that somebody randomly wrote just to generate some clicks.
Preying on people's emotions.
Uh-huh.
Brutal. Let me guess, they even included a photograph, didn't they?
Yes, they did. Actually, a couple.
Yeah.
One of those random mugshots that you seem to see on all the typical fake news stories, and then a picture of a woman who appears to be a waitress.
Right. See, that's cutting too close to home for fake news, man. Cutting way too close to home.
Well, right now, the fake news is tough because I really wanted to stay away from the SCOTUS and all the political stuff, just because there's no way we can win with that. Plus, we've talked about it a little bit over the week. And right now, so much is focused on that, or it's recycled stuff that we've talked about before.
Well, that doesn't sound positive.
No, it's not. And I even talked to Captain Shirk a little bit, and there's so much focus on the Supreme Court nominee hearings and an investigation. In fact, the next story does touch upon that a little bit. We just couldn't avoid it.
Well, let's get to it.
Well, Jim Baker has finally weighed in on the Supreme Court nominee, Brett Kavanaugh. And he says that a time-traveling demon implanted Ford with false memories.
Beautiful. This is the type of woo we want to hear.
He said that he had watched the hearings, and then he had a dream where the Lord took him to the party where Ford claimed she was.
Okay.
And showed him that a demonic spirit had entered her. And it had come from this period of time because it knew that Kavanaugh was destined for great things, and it wanted to destroy that.
Was this voice of Jim Baker or somebody along those lines?
No, this was Jim Baker.
Oh, I thought you. I misheard you there. I misheard you there. So was he trying to up his food sales? His end of times food sales?
Well, I'm not really sure. Again, this is one of those ones that comes from. It sort of appears out of nowhere, and it seems to have appeared from nowhere. I haven't even had time to verify that this is one of those ones that could turn out to be real news, knowing Jim Baker.
You know what? It wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me.
You know, and I hate to have to come back with an apology for reporting real news during Faux News Friday, but
I know
it may happen with Jim Baker.
You know, I got to tell you, you know, this very talented editor named Vic Berger has made some great videos on Jim Baker. I don't know if you've seen any of them. They've been all over Facebook.
I've seen some of those.
I have a couple questions about those. He's got this band in the background that has taken very, very popular songs, mostly from the, 50s, 60s, and 70s, but they've changed the lyrics to something along, like one of them was, instead of My Girl, the song My Girl?
Yeah.
Very, very catchy, popular tune. Still is, 50, 60 years later. But they changed the lyrics, so instead of My Girl, it's End Times. Now, my question is, if I'm an artist, okay, if I'm a musician and I'm an artist on this, I'm suing the hell out of them for ruining my song.
Maybe.
It hasn't happened. Is that even possible? I mean, you Americans, you sue over everything. Why is he not being sued?
It depends on who holds the rights to the song, if they're aware that he's using it, and if they care.
Oh, but there's a bunch of them. You got to watch it. Go on YouTube and check that out. Better. It is better high quality entertainment than that guy who proclaims that he is curing people of demons through exorcisms.
Oh, what's his name?
Oh, Bob or Bill. I have to look it up.
Bishop. Yeah, I kind of remember that.
Yeah. Exactly. Let's get to the thought of the day, shall we? Since we're at that time.
That went slowly quick.
Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where what we like to do around here is ask a question on our Facebook and Twitter pages. And then we allow you to respond, and we read your responses on the air. We like to have a little fun because we love the audience participation around here. So today's Thought of the Day is as follows. Devil's Tower. Who's on Team Stump and who's on Team Rock? I'm slightly disappointed in a number of people here, my friend. Slightly disappointed. Let's get to it.
Who are we disappointed in?
Well, voice around here, Chris George Zuger, he says he's on Team Geology, which means he believes it's a rock. Boy, we're going to stump him. Tim, he claims it's a rock. John, Team Stump here. At first I thought rock, but with closer inspection, I'm Team Stump all the way. My reasoning is if you look at the rocks around it, they look totally different. Also weathered stumps around here look similar, although much smaller. Way to go, John. Way to jump on Team Stump there.
That is exactly right.
Exactly. Soon, coming to the Spaced Out Radio store, Team Stump t-shirts. We open it up. Reopen, relaunch. Heidi, over in the UK. It is possible to be on both teams. If it were once a stump, it is now a fossilized rock. In all seriousness, for it to be a volcanic anomaly, it would have needed a system of vents which could well look like a root system. See, I'm going to put her on Team Stump.
I would too.
All right. Coral, down in British Columbia, the southeastern part. I think she's freezing down there because she's on Team Rock. Reverend Keith, wait, this is a thing? Really? Well, shut my mouth and call me luggage. Gotta love Reverend Keith. Mary says Team Rock. Cat? Team Stump, as far as I'm concerned, it was the world tree Gaia, cut down long ago by man in order to end an age of mystical times, leaving the only part necessary to sustain this world with what little power it has left to give. Kevin, Team Rock. Sorry, Dave. Just don't think they made saws that big. I mean, who the hell cut it? Paul Bunyan?
Maybe.
Could very well be. Could very well be. Matthew's on Team Rock. Marty, how the regulars from Spaced Out Radio's Twitter snark team look at it? Adopt a stump. Love you, Marty. Thank you. Gregory, while I'm in agreement, Devil's Tower looks like a stump. It's made of phonolite porphyry rock, which was created by magma. But heck, Dave, it's your show. Call it what you want. Hey, I know. Let's call it Dave's Devil Tower Pizza. Be it wood or rock, it's mighty damn crunchy.
I think that's a little condescending.
I'm still enjoying it, though. There might be a business opportunity there.
Stump Pizza?
Renee, Team Stump. Bob, Team Stump, the Tree of Life. Penman, Team Rock. There we go. Mr. Everett Themer, where can we find the encounter?
You can find the encounter at spacedoutradio.com or at facebook.com/SOR, the encounter online.
Perfect. Thank you so much, my friend. Good to have you back on. Also, thank you to our Keith Andrews coming on the first couple of hours during the show. Keith will be back on Friday, November 2nd. This weekend, while I'm out in the wilderness finding my zen, my chi, and my firewood, do me a favor. Tune in to Tessa Nicole Thomas. Spaced Out Saturdays, Spaced Out Sundays equates to Spaced Out Weekend, 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, on our website, spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot THAL rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Big thank you to everybody listening in at home, at work, in your cars, wherever you may be. Also, a big shout out to everybody this week for your comments on Spreaker, in Rev Radio's chat room, on Facebook at the SOR Space Travelers Club. And don't forget the Twitter crowd. Great snarking this week at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. Thanks for a great week. We will talk to you on Monday night with my guest, Rob Morphy, the crypto historian. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Remember, my friends, we own the night. See you on Monday. Good night.